Hello, I'm Dr. Jeanette Raymond, psychologist, psychotherapist, and relationship expert, here to talk to you about the capacity to love. I see so many couples who long to be adored and feel special, feel wanted, feel encouraged, feel safe and secure in their relationships. And the way in which they express their love makes their partner feel the exact opposite. So, for example, with one couple that I used to work with, the husband, who was a professional, well-to-do young man, extremely well educated, well traveled, had everything that money could buy. He really expected his wife to focus all her attention on him when neither of them were at work. And if she wanted to talk to a friend or go out with a friend or have time to herself to do an educational class of some kind in her free time, he felt it was a deep wound and a rejection of him. He also felt that, given the fact that he was bringing in the majority of the money, he was kind of creating the physical security of the family, that he was bringing a lot more into the relationship than she did, and therefore she did not love him. And she needed to change her ways and prove that he was number one in his life by restricting her activities and her contacts outside the marriage. Now, this man had one of the central features of a lack of capacity to love, because the capacity to love involves feeling good about your partner, feeling good being with them, enjoying their growth, their company, their personality, being happy for them. So if he had a genuine capacity to love, he'd be encouraging her to do her classes and to meet with friends and have a more full, balanced and meaningful life than try to restrict her. So when you have someone who tries to restrict their partner and to get them to focus their attention only on them, they don't really have the capacity to love, because love means enjoying the other person as they are, not trying to control them and being who you want them to be. And this man also had great difficulty in expressing his love, because it came in the form of demands and expectations and anger when they were not met. And also he had a transactional approach to the relationship. So if he brought in the money, then she should focus the attention only on him. If he's home, then she should do her part and be home and take care of the kids or do the housework. So everything was quid pro quo. And that is not love. That shows a lack of capacity to love, because it's transactional love, and it's about keeping score and who's doing what for who, and always keeping that ledger book, who's got more debit and who's got more credit. And it makes for a very uncomfortable, pressurized relationship where there's actually no room for love. Because love involves enjoying being with the other person, taking pleasure in them and their way that they express themselves, watching them grow and melding in with them, rather than trying to mold, shape, predict, control, and so on in a transactional relationship, which is kind of like bartering in the market. I do this and you have to do that, and in return for this you need to do that, and expecting constant obligation and so on, instead of the feeling of enjoyment of being with each other, of kind of respecting each other's personalities and differences, being excited to watch the other person grow and change and become better and more fuller in their lives, that as things change, as your family grows and so on. So one of the main features about the lack of capacity to love is when your partner uses a bartering mechanism to make you feel guilty and ashamed, that look at everything I did, and this is what you do to me, this is what I get in return, because they expect quid pro quo. So even in individual relationships, I was working with a woman who was the youngest in her family. And as a child, she was told that she was an accident, she hadn't been planned, and there was a gap between her and the next oldest. And the next oldest was her mother's favorite. And in order for my client to get some attention from her mother, or get some attention from her father, who was not very stable, she had to engage in this kind of bartering, obligatory, pressurized relationship, which showed her that her mother and father did not have the capacity to love, in the sense of letting her grow, enjoying her success, encouraging her to be herself, to express herself, to be whoever she was, and enjoy it. What they did instead was make her feel that the only way they would even know she existed was if she did all the housework and took the pressure off the mother, if she made sure her father took all his medication, if she made sure that there was nothing in her brother's way of succeeding, so that everything around him had to be taken care of, and he didn't have any duties and obligations because he was the golden child, and nothing must get in his way. And she took all that on, and she became very restricted in expressing herself as she grew up, and it was hard for her to make relationships because she had grown up thinking that expressing herself was wrong, that it would be detrimental to other people, wouldn't like it, and they wouldn't want to be with her. So again, she grew up in a household where the parents did not have a capacity to love. And now as an adult, she doesn't either. She's married, but everything, she feels guilty about not being available to her spouse. And it's very much quid pro quo. Oh, look what he did for me. He called so-and-so, he did this chore. He took my side when there was a problem with the landlord and so on. And now I have to return that favor. I better have sex with him tonight. Or I better go out with him at the weekend. Or I better watch the movie he wants to have. That's the way she grew up, and it's so sad because the relationship could be so much more. They could be enjoying each other. They could be playing with each other. They could be encouraging each other to be whoever they were, rather than feeling duty bound. He did this, so now I have to do that, or I better not ask him to do anything because then I'll have to do something in return. It's so sad. And it's almost like she's shriveled up and there's nothing left inside her, so she doesn't have the capacity to love. And a lot of my clients, whether they come individually or as a couple, at least one member of the couple is unable to love in the way that I just described. And it takes a long time for me to be allowed in to help them learn by giving them love myself. So I encourage them. I open them up. I help them feel wanted and accepted and loved, and then they begin to grow that capacity to love. But it takes a while, and very often their partners may not want to wait, they may not be patient, so it's very tricky But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you about the lack of capacity to love. That's number one. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you've experienced this either growing up in your family or with one of your partners, and how awful it might feel to you to be in this position. What have you tried to help your partner, or what have you done to help yourself overcome your childhood where maybe this was imposed on you? And very soon I will be with you and tell you about the second way in which we can recognize the lack of capacity to love.